Okay, let's dive right in. We're seeing a massive shift in how wars are fought. I mean, the old rulebook is basically being thrown out the window. And what's replacing it? A whole new world of autonomous systems, AI, and this really intense tech race between the United States and China. It's a huge deal, so let's break it down. Here's the roadmap for today. First, we'll look at how the actual rules of war are being rewritten as we speak. Then, we're going to get into America's really bold opening move in this new game, the Hellscape strategy. Of course, it's a chess match, so we'll look at China's intelligent countermove. After that, we'll explore some next-gen weapons that could change everything again. And finally, we'll tackle the big question. Is the future of war completely unmanned? You know, if you look at what's been happening, especially in Ukraine, it's been a massive wake-up call for military planners everywhere. The old way of thinking, relying on these huge, expensive, manned planes and ships, that era is fading. A new reality is crashing in, and it's one that's dominated by swarms of cheap, disposable, and scarily smart unmanned systems. Now, this whole shift creates a really interesting problem. The U.S. has always relied on having the best tech, right? The most advanced jets, the quietest subs. But what happens when you're in a new kind of war, a war of attrition with disposable drones, and your opponent can just flat out make more stuff than you? A lot more. Well, that's the core challenge we're talking about today. And just to put that into perspective, look at these numbers. They're pretty stark. China's industrial base can reportedly pump out something like 100,000 small drones a month. The US? Maybe around 6,000. That's not a gap, folks. That's a canyon. It creates this huge numbers problem that the Pentagon has to solve. So what do you do if you can't win a one-for-one numbers game? You have to change the rules of the game itself. And America's answer is a strategy that's designed to take its biggest advantage, that technological edge, and turn it into a completely new kind of overwhelming force. And they've given it a name that is, well, it's chillingly direct. You don't have to read between the lines here. This quote from Admiral Samuel Paparo, the guy in charge of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, says it all. Hellscape isn't just a scary word. It's a very clear strategy. Make an invasion so costly and chaotic right from the start that you buy yourself time for everything else. So what is the Hellscape strategy, really? Well, think of it as the real-world plan coming out of the Pentagon's Replicator initiative. The idea is to basically flood a potential battlefield, like the Taiwan Strait, with thousands of autonomous drones, in the air and on the sea, that can swarm an invading force. It's like creating an instant, intelligent, unmanned minefield that thinks for itself. And this isn't just a cool idea on a whiteboard. The Pentagon is putting some serious money behind us. For fiscal year 2026, the budget request for these kinds of autonomous systems is a whopping $13.6 billion. I mean, that's more than the entire defense budget of a lot of countries. It shows you this is a deep, real commitment to making this future happen. And this effort is spread across the entire U.S. military. You've got the Air Force working on these AI-powered drone wingmen that'll fly alongside fighter pilots. The Navy is building everything from drone refueling tankers to ships that don't need any crew at all. And down on the ground, the Marines and the Army are giving tactical drones to their soldiers, basically turning every squad into a long-range weapon. Okay, so that's the American move. But like we said, this is a chess match, and China is absolutely not just standing still. They're developing their own powerful counter-strategy. They call it intelligentized warfare. And the whole idea is to combine their greatest strength, that massive industrial scale, with cutting-edge AI. And you have to understand, China's progress here has been incredibly fast. I mean, they went from copying old Soviet designs in the 60s and 70s to now aiming for global dominance in AI-powered swarm technology. They don't just see this as part of the future of war, they see it as the future, and they are all in on winning that race. The way Chinese military planners think about this is pretty smart. They see drone swarms as having two jobs. It's a sword for when they're on the attack, and it's a shield to defend their forces from the exact same kind of swarm attack they might face. It's a complete two-sided strategy. So let's look at the sword. In a potential amphibious invasion, the plan would supposedly unfold in 3 stages. First, while their ships are crossing the sea, swarms are their eyes and ears, watching everything. Second, when they hit the beaches, the swarms go crazy. They become decoys, they jam defenses, they attack fortifications. Then, once troops are ashore, the swarms push ahead, acting as scouts, to find targets for the big guns in the back.
And now for the shield. How would China defend against an attack like America's Hellscape? Well, they have this 4-layer defense plan. It all starts with detection. using every sensor they've got. The first move is a soft kill. Try to jam the enemy swarm's communications. If that doesn't work, it's time for a hard kill, literally shooting the drones down with lasers, missiles, or even their own swarms. And the last layer? Deception, using things like smoke and decoys to make the enemy drones blind.
All right, so we've talked a ton about drones, but this tech race goes way, way beyond that. Both sides are pouring billions into entirely new types of weapons. We're talking things that move at the speed of light and missiles that are basically unstoppable. This is where it gets really wild. For all of human history, warfare has been about kinetics, right? You throw a rock, fire an arrow, shoot a bullet. But directed energy weapons, lasers, microwaves, they completely flip the script. Instead of a projectile, you're firing energy at the speed of light. The impact is instant. And the best part? As long as you have power, you basically have unlimited ammo. And again, this isn't just science fiction. The US Navy is already putting the Helios laser system on its ships. You've got Israel's Iron Beam system and the UK's Dragonfire. But here's the real game changer, the cost. Why fire $1 million missile at a $10,000 drone when you can just zap it with a laser for like a few bucks worth of electricity? The economics are undeniable. And then there's the other side of the coin, the race for pure, terrifying speed. Hypersonic weapons travel at more than 5 times the speed of sound. But it's not just their speed. A normal ballistic missile flies in a predictable arc, right? You can track it. A hypersonic weapon can maneuver in flight. That makes trying to intercept it almost impossible with today's technology. So you put all of this together, the drone swarms, the lasers, the hypersonic missiles, and it really seems like the battlefield of the future is going to be faster, smarter, and have fewer and fewer humans involved. But here's the question. Does that mean technology all by itself can actually win a war? Well, there are a lot of experienced people, like retired Navy Captain Jim Fennell, who are pumping the brakes on that idea. Their argument is that, look, a swarm of drones is great, but it can't do what a nuclear submarine or an aircraft carrier can do. You still need those big, powerful platforms to project power across vast oceans. They argue that drones are an amazing new tool for sure, but they aren't a silver bullet that replaces everything else. And that really gets us to the core dilemma from military leaders today. Is this an either-or choice? Do you bet the entire farm on new tech, on drones and AI? Or is the real answer a much more complicated and way more expensive future where you have to perfectly blend the old with the new? Which brings us to one last thought to leave you with. As battles are fought in microseconds by algorithms and weapons hit their targets at the speed of light, the actual human is getting pushed further and further away from the fight. And that raises a really profound question for all of us. In a war that's fought by machines, what does winning even mean anymore?